was a small pink dog, a very nervous little dog. Courage. The night had settled gently over the land. The sky was painted in deep blues and soft purples, with stars scattered like tiny glowing seeds. The moon hung low and full, casting a silver glow across the empty fields. Inside the farmhouse, everything was calm. Muriel sat in her rocking chair, knitting something warm and soft. Click, 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 went the needles in a slow, steady rhythm. Eustace grumbled quietly in his chair, half asleep, half awake, muttering something about no good dogs under his breath. And Courage. Courage lay curled up on the floor beside Muriel. His ears twitched at every little sound. The creak of the wooden walls, the whisper of the wind, the distant hoot of an owl. But still, this was home, and home felt safe. Muriel smiled gently and looked down at him. "There now, Courage," she said softly. "Nothing to worry about tonight?" Courage let out a small, uncertain whimper, but he wanted to believe her. He really did. Outside, the wind shifted, just slightly. It carried something new with it, something faint, something unfamiliar. A sound, not loud, not sharp, just strange, like a soft echo or a voice carried from far, far away. Courage's ears perked up instantly. His eyes widened. He lifted his head slowly, very slowly, listening. There it was again. A low, distant, moaning hum. Not quite a growl, not quite a cry. Something in between. Courage froze. His tiny body stiffened. "Oh no," he whispered to himself. His imagination began to spin. Was it a monster? A ghost? Something worse? He gulped. Muriel didn't seem to notice. She kept rocking gently, knitting peacefully. Click, click, click. The calm rhythm filled the room, but Courage couldn't relax. The sound came again, a little closer this time, a little clearer, a little sadder. Courage stood up slowly. His legs trembled just a little as he tiptoed toward the window. Step, step, step. He reached the edge of the curtain and peeked outside. The fields stretched out endlessly, covered in silver moonlight. At first, nothing. Just grass swaying gently. Just shadows moving with the wind. Just quiet. Courage blinked. Maybe it was nothing after all. Maybe he imagined it. He let out a small sigh of relief. But just as he turned away, there it was. Far in the distance. A shape. Tall, thin, and still. Courage gasped silently. His eyes grew wide. The shape didn't move. It just stood there, as if watching, as if waiting. Courage quickly ducked down behind the window. His heart raced. Thump, thump, thump. He squeezed his eyes shut. Okay, he whispered. Maybe it's just a tree. Yes, a tree. A normal, harmless tree. That had always been there. Probably. Right? He slowly peeked again. The shape was gone. Courage blinked. Once, twice, nothing. Just empty fields. The wind brushed through the grass like a soft lullaby. Everything looked normal again. Too normal. Courage tilted his head. Huh? He stood there for a moment longer, listening, waiting, but the strange sound had faded. The night felt calm again, quiet, peaceful, just like before. Courage walked slowly back to Muriel. She smiled down at him again, warm and gentle. "There you are," she said. "Come sit, dear." Courage hesitated, then curled up beside her once more. Her rocking chair creaked softly. Back and forth, back and forth. The sound was soothing, comforting, safe. Courage rested his head on his paws. Maybe it really was nothing. Maybe the night was just playing tricks. But far outside, beyond the fields, beyond the soft glow of the farmhouse, something moved. Not quickly, not suddenly, but slowly, carefully, like it didn't want to scare anyone. Inside, Courage's eyes began to grow heavy. The rhythm of Muriel's knitting, the gentle rocking, the quiet hum of the wind, all of it wrapped around him like a warm blanket. His breathing slowed, in and out, in and out. But just before sleep could take him, that sound returned. Soft, closer now. Not frightening, just lonely. Courage's eyes opened again, slowly. This time, he didn't feel the same sharp fear. Just curiosity. Just a small, quiet wondering. What if it wasn't something scary? What if it was something sad? Courage lifted his head. The night outside seemed different now. Less dark, less threatening. Still mysterious, but not quite as frightening. He looked toward the door, then back at Muriel. She was still rocking peacefully. Everything inside the house felt warm and safe. But outside, something was waiting. Not chasing. Not attacking. Just waiting. Courage swallowed. His ears lowered slightly. And for the first time that night, he didn't think about running away. He thought about going closer. Very slowly. He stood up. He took one quiet step toward the door. Then another. The wooden floor creaked softly beneath his paws. Muriel didn't notice. Eustace snored quietly in his chair. Courage reached the door. He paused. His paw hovered over the handle. His heart beat gently now. Not racing. Just steady. Outside, the wind whispered again. And the strange sound, soft as ever, called out into the night. Courage took a deep breath. Okay, he whispered. And slowly, he opened the door. The door opened with a quiet creak. Crack. Courage stepped outside. The night air wrapped around him instantly, cool, soft, and still. Behind him, the warm glow of the farmhouse spilled gently onto the porch, like a small pool of safety in the middle of endless darkness. Courage paused there for a moment, half in the light, half in the night. He looked back once. Muriel was still inside, rocking peacefully. Everything safe, everything familiar. Then he turned forward again. The field stretched wide and silver under the moon, and somewhere out there, that soft, lonely sound waited. Courage took a small step forward, then another. The wooden porch creaked softly beneath his paws. Step, step. He reached the edge and carefully climbed down onto the grass. The ground felt cool. The grass brushed gently against his legs, whispering as it moved. Shh, shh, shh. The wind carried that same strange sound again. Closer now, clearer. Not a growl, not a roar, just a long, quiet sigh. Courage's ears lifted. He listened carefully. This time he didn't flinch. It doesn't sound angry, he murmured. If anything, it sounded tired, lonely. Courage began to walk, slowly at first. Each step careful, quiet, unsure. The farmhouse behind him grew smaller, its warm light dimming as he moved farther away. But the moonlight guided him, soft and silver, gentle enough not to frighten. The fields swayed all around him, tall grasses bending with the wind like waves in a quiet ocean. And in between those waves, shadows moved, not chasing, not reaching, just shifting. Courage stopped. He looked around. For a moment, his old fear returned. His eyes darted from one shadow to another. What if something jumps out, he whispered. He gulped, but nothing did. The night remained still, peaceful, waiting. The sound came again, a little to the left now. Courage turned his head. There, between two clusters of tall grass, something moved, very slightly, like a shape trying not to be seen. Courage crouched low. His body tensed. Hello? He called out softly. No answer. Only the wind. Only the quiet rustling of grass. He took another step forward, then another. His paws made almost no sound. The earth beneath him felt soft, almost like it was guiding him gently along. As he got closer, he noticed something strange. The air felt different. Warmer, not cold like the rest of the night. And the sound wasn't just a sound anymore. It was almost like breathing. Slow, uneven, quiet breathing. Courage tilted his head. That's not scary, he said quietly. That's just sad. He moved closer still. And then the grass parted slightly, just enough for him to see. A shape, low to the ground, curled in on itself and not tall anymore, not towering, just small. Courage blinked. That wasn't what he expected. Not at all. The shape shifted, slowly, carefully, as if it knew someone was there. Courage froze. His heart gave a small jump, but he didn't run. Not this time. It's okay, Courage whispered. I won't hurt you. The shape didn't respond, but the soft breathing continued. In and out. In and out. Courage took one more step forward. Very gently. Very slowly. The moonlight slid across the grass. And finally, it touched the shape. It wasn't sharp. It wasn't jagged. It wasn't terrifying. It was soft, round, almost like a bundle of shadows wrapped together. And it was trembling. Courage's expression changed. His fear softened, melting into something else. Something warmer. Something kinder. You're scared too, he said quietly. The shape shifted again. Just a little, as if it heard him. The sound came once more, but now so close, Courage could hear it clearly. It wasn't a moan. It wasn't a warning. It was a quiet, shaky whimper. Courage sat down slowly in the grass. He didn't move closer. He didn't reach out. He just stayed. It's okay, he said again. We can just sit. The wind passed gently over them both. The grass swayed softly. The stars above shimmered quietly. For a while, nothing happened. No sudden movements. No loud noises. Just two small figures, sitting under a wide, quiet sky. Courage felt his breathing slow again. In and out. In, and out. The shape stopped trembling as much. Its breathing steadied. Just a little. Courage smiled faintly. See, he whispered. Not so scary. He looked up at the moon. Big, bright, gentle. Watching over everything. Maybe, Courage said softly. We were both just a little afraid of the dark. The shape shifted closer. Just a tiny bit. barely noticeable. But Courage noticed. He didn't move. He didn't react. He just stayed calm. And slowly, very slowly, space between them began to feel smaller. Not because Courage moved closer, but because the fear moved away. The night didn't feel so empty anymore. It didn't feel so strange. It felt shared. Courage let out a soft sigh. For the first time that night, he wasn't afraid of what might happen next. He was curious. "What are you?" he asked gently. The shape didn't answer. Not with words, but it did something else. Something small. Something important. It lifted its head. Just a little. And for a brief moment, in the soft silver light, Courage saw its eyes. Not glowing. Not fierce. Not dangerous. Just tired. And a little lonely. Courage's ears lowered gently. Not in fear, but in understanding. "Oh," he whispered. The wind passed between them again. Soft, slow, calming. And this time, when the sound came back, it didn't echo across the fields. It stayed right there. Quiet. Gentle. Almost like a sigh of relief. The two of them sat quietly in the grass, bathed in soft moonlight, surrounded by the gentle whisper of the night. Courage didn't move. Not even a little. He had learned something important. Sometimes, moving too quickly made things more frightening. But being still, being calm, made the world feel softer. The small, shadowy creature remained where it was. Curled. Quiet. Watching. Its eyes blinked slowly. Once, then again. Courage tilted his head slightly. "Hi," he whispered again. His voice was soft as the wind. The creature didn't speak. But its breathing had changed. No longer shaky. No longer uneven. Just slow and steady. Courage took a gentle breath in and out, matching the rhythm. For a long moment, they simply existed together. No fear, no rushing, just quiet company. Then slowly, very slowly, the creature shifted. It uncurled just a little. Not completely, just enough. The shadows around it seemed to loosen, like a blanket being gently unfolded. Courage leaned forward slightly. Curious now. Not scared, just curious. "You don't have to hide," he said softly. The creature paused, as if listening, as if thinking. Then, inch by inch, it lifted its head a little higher. The moonlight touched more of it now, and Courage could see something new. It wasn't made of sharp edges, or claws, or anything frightening. It looked like soft, drifting mist, mixed with shadows, gently moving even when the air was still. Courage blinked in surprise. "You're kind of pretty," he whispered. The creature blinked again, slowly. For a moment, it seemed unsure what to do. Then, carefully, it shifted a little closer. Courage stayed perfectly still, letting it decide, letting it feel safe. The grass between them rustled softly. Shh, shh. Courage could feel the warmth in the air again. That same gentle warmth from before. "You're not cold," he murmured. "That's nice." The creature tilted its head slightly, mirroring him. Courage smiled faintly. A small, brave smile. "I get scared a lot," he admitted quietly. The wind slowed, as if listening. "I thought you were something big and scary," he continued. "Something chasing me." He paused, looking at the creature. weren't. The creature's form flickered gently, not in a frightening way, just like a soft shadow moving in candlelight. Courage took another slow breath. "Were you scared too?" he asked. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, very faintly, the creature made a sound. Not loud, not sharp, just a soft, quiet hum. Courage's ears perked up. "That's your voice," he whispered. The creature hummed again, a little steadier this time. And somehow, without words, Courage understood. It wasn't trying to scare anyone. It never was. It had just been calling out, alone, in the dark. "Oh," Courage said gently. "You were just looking for someone." The creature's form softened even more, the shadows less tight, the movement more relaxed. Courage's heart felt lighter. He shifted his position slightly, just enough to sit more comfortably in the grass. "You can stay," he said quietly. "I don't mind." The creature didn't rush, didn't leap forward, didn't hide either. It simply stayed. And after a moment, it moved a little closer again. Now only a small space remained between them. Courage looked down at the grass, then back at the creature. "I'm Courage," he said softly. The creature blinked. It didn't say a name, but it made that soft hum again. Courage nodded. "That's okay," he said. "You don't have to have a name." The wind drifted past them both. Cool, gentle, steady. The farmhouse, far behind now, glowed faintly in the distance. A small golden light on the horizon. Courage glanced back at it for a moment, then forward again. "It's nicer out here than I thought," he admitted. The creature shifted slightly closer. Now, close enough that Courage could feel its warmth clearly. Not hot, not cold, just comforting, like sitting near a quiet fire. Courage hesitated for a moment. Then slowly, very slowly, he stretched out one paw, not touching, just offering. The creature watched, its soft form drifting gently. Then, carefully, it moved closer, and just barely, it touched his paw. Courage froze, but not from fear, from surprise. It felt soft, like warm air, like a gentle breeze. He blinked. "You're not scary at all," he whispered. The creature's form shimmered lightly, almost like it was happy. They stayed like that, paw and shadow, touching softly, under the quiet sky. Time seemed to slow. Even more than before, the night felt deeper, but not darker, just calmer. Courage let his eyes relax, not fully closed, just soft. The creature stayed close, no longer trembling, no longer alone, and somewhere in the distance, an owl called softly. The world felt peaceful, safe, shared. But far beyond the fields, something else stirred. Not close, not yet, but watching. And the night still held more secrets. Courage didn't know that yet. Right now, he only knew one thing. Not everything in the dark was meant to be feared. Some things were just waiting to be understood. The night stretched on, quiet, endless, peaceful. Courage and the small, shadowy creature remained side by side in the grass, their stillness blending into the rhythm of the world around them. The wind had softened now, no longer whispering in long stretches, just drifting lightly, like a lullaby almost finished. Courage's paw still rested near the creature, not tightly, not holding, just there, a quiet connection. He felt different, calmer than before. The kind of calm that comes after fear fades away, like a storm passing, leaving the air fresh and gentle. "You're nice," Courage murmured sleepily. The creature gave a soft hum in return, low, warm, steady. Courage smiled faintly. His eyes grew heavier. The moon above seemed softer now, its light less bright, more like a quiet glow. For a moment, it felt like he could fall asleep right there in the grass. But then, something changed, very slightly. The wind paused, not completely, but enough to notice. The grass stopped swaying. The soft sounds of the night grew still. Courage's ears twitched. He lifted his head slowly. "Did you feel that?" he whispered. The small creature shifted beside him. Its form tightened just a little. Not like before, not trembling, just alert. The air felt different now. Cooler. Not the gentle cool from earlier, but something deeper, quieter. Courage looked out across the fields. At first, nothing. Just shadows. Just moonlight. Just the same peaceful land. But then, far beyond the hill, something moved. Slow, very slow. Courage narrowed his eyes. Trying to see, trying to understand. "Is that another one like you?" he asked softly. The creature beside him didn't hum this time. Instead, it grew still, very still. Courage noticed. "Oh," he whispered. "You don't know either." The shape in the distance shifted again. Not coming fast, not rushing, just moving. But unlike the small creature beside him, this one felt different. Not angry, not loud, but heavier. The kind of presence you feel. Before you understand it, Courage swallowed. A small flicker of his old fear returned. His paws pressed lightly into the grass. "It's okay," he whispered to himself. "It's okay." He looked at the small creature beside him. It was watching, too. Not hiding, not running, just watching. Courage took a slow breath, in and out. He remembered how scared he had been before, how everything felt frightening. Until he got closer, until he understood. "Maybe it's like you," he said gently. The creature beside him shifted slightly, as if unsure. The distant shape paused, then moved again. A little closer now. Still far away, but clearer. It was taller than the first one had been. Not towering, but enough to stand out against the horizon. Its shape seemed to stretch upward, like a long shadow pulled thin by the moonlight. Courage's ears lowered slightly. "Okay," he whispered. Maybe a little scary, but he didn't run. That was new. Before, he would have already been halfway back to the farmhouse, hiding, shaking. But now, he stayed, because he wasn't alone. The small creature beside him gave a soft hum. Courage looked at it. "You're still here," he said quietly. The creature had drifted just a little closer to him, and somehow, that made everything feel less frightening. The tall shape in the distance stopped again. For a long moment, nothing moved. The night held its breath. Courage tilted his head. "Maybe it doesn't want to scare us either," he said softly. The wind returned, just a little, brushing gently across the grass. "Shh, shh." tall shape shifted again. But this time, not forward, to the side. Slowly, carefully. Like it was unsure where to go. Courage blinked. "It's wandering," he said. The small creature beside him gave a faint hum, not fearful, just thoughtful. Courage watched closely. The tall shape moved again, not toward them, not away, just searching. And then, very faintly, Courage heard something, a sound, different from before. Not the soft hum of the small creature. This was quieter, thinner, almost like a sigh carried across a long distance. Courage's expression softened. "That doesn't sound scary either," he whispered. The tall shape paused again, as if it had heard something too. The small creature beside Courage shifted forward slightly. "Just a little?" Courage noticed. "Do you want to go closer?" he asked gently. The creature didn't answer right away. The wind brushed past again, soft and slow. Then, very carefully, the small creature moved one step forward. Courage watched, then looked back at the distant figure, then back at his small companion. "Okay," he said softly. "We can go together." He stood up slowly. His legs didn't tremble this time, just steady. He took one step forward, then paused, making sure the creature was still with him. It was, floating gently beside him. Not hiding anymore, not afraid to move. Together, they began to walk, step, step, through the soft grass, under the quiet moon, toward something unknown. But this time, it didn't feel like danger. It felt like understanding waiting to happen. The farmhouse behind them seemed even smaller now, just a distant glow. But Courage didn't look back. He kept his eyes forward, because something inside him had changed. The dark wasn't just a place of fear anymore. It was a place of questions, of quiet stories, of things not yet understood. And maybe not everything out there was meant to be feared. Maybe some things were just waiting to be found far ahead. The tall shape shifted once more. And for the first time, it turned slightly in their direction. Not quickly, not sharply, just enough to notice. Courage slowed his steps. "I think it sees us," he whispered. The small creature beside him gave a soft, steady hum. Not warning, not fear, just presence. Courage took a slow breath. "Okay," he said quietly. "We'll be gentle." And together, they continued forward, into the deeper night. Step, step. Courage and the small, shadowy creature moved slowly through the field, their path guided by soft moonlight and quiet curiosity. The tall figure ahead no longer seemed so distant, still far, but clearer now. Courage kept his steps careful, not too fast, not too slow. Beside him, the small creature drifted gently, its soft form glowing faintly in the night, like a shadow that had learned how to be kind. "We're getting closer," Courage whispered. The wind moved lightly around them. "Shh, shh." The tall figure shifted again. This time it didn't turn away. It remained still, as if waiting. Courage paused. "Okay," he said quietly. "We don't have to rush." He sat down in the grass again, right there, halfway between the farmhouse and the unknown. The small creature settled beside him. They waited. Time passed slowly, gently. The tall figure didn't move closer, but it didn't leave either. It simply stood there, watching. Just as Courage and the small creature were watching it. Maybe it's scared too, Courage said softly. The small creature gave a faint hum. Courage nodded. That's okay, he whispered. We were scared too. The wind brushed across the fields again. Soft, steady, patient. Courage looked down at the grass beneath his paws. When I get scared, he said quietly, I usually run away. He paused. But sometimes, he continued, running makes things feel even bigger. The small creature shifted closer. Courage smiled faintly. But when I stay, he said, things feel smaller. He looked up again. The tall figure remained in place, not moving forward, not moving away, just waiting. Maybe it's waiting for us, Courage said. The small creature hummed softly, not urging, not warning, just agreeing. Courage took a slow breath, in and out. Then gently, he stood up again. Let's try, he whispered. Step, step. He moved forward once more. The small creature followed closely. The space between them and the tall figure grew smaller. Slowly, carefully, like closing the distance between two quiet thoughts. Courage's heart beat softly, not racing, not pounding, just steady. As they drew nearer, details began to appear. The tall figure wasn't sharp or jagged. It was long, flowing, almost like drifting smoke, stretching upward into the night. Its edges blurred gently, as if it didn't quite belong to the world, but didn't want to leave it either. Courage slowed his steps. Hello, he called softly. The figure didn't respond right away. The wind paused again. The world grew still. Then, very faintly, the tall figure made a sound. Not loud, not frightening, just a long, soft, tired sigh. Courage's ears lifted. You sound lonely too, he said gently. The figure shifted. Just a little. Not closer. Not away. Just reacting. Courage stopped walking. He didn't want to overwhelm it. It's okay, he said. We won't hurt you. The small creature beside him gave a soft hum. The sound carried gently through the air. The tall figure responded, not with words, but with movement. It lowered slightly. Not collapsing, not shrinking, just softening. Courage blinked. You're not trying to scare us, he whispered. Another soft sigh drifted through the night. Courage took one small step closer, then stopped. We were scared before too, he said. He glanced at the small creature beside him. But we're not anymore. The tall figure grew still again, listening. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It felt full of quiet understanding. Courage slowly sat down again, right there in the grass. Not too close, not too far. The small creature settled beside him once more. Together, they waited. And after a long, quiet moment, the tall figure began to move. Slowly. Very slowly, it drifted closer. Not rushing, not looming, just approaching. Courage stayed still. His paws rested gently on the ground. His breathing remained calm. The tall figure came closer, until the moonlight touched more of it. And then, Courage could see. It wasn't one shape. It was many soft strands, woven together, like pieces of shadow trying to stay connected. Oh, Courage whispered. It looked fragile, not strong, not powerful, just trying to hold itself together. A small creature beside him gave a soft, steady hum. The tall figure responded. Its form steadied slightly, as if the sound helped. Courage's eyes widened. "You're helping it," he said quietly. The small creature hummed again, a little stronger this time. The tall figure softened further, its edges less scattered, its movement more calm. Courage smiled gently. "You were alone before," he said to the tall figure. "And now, you're not." The wind returned, soft and warm. The grass swayed again. The night felt different now, not empty, not mysterious, just full of quiet connection. Courage slowly lifted his paw again, not reaching too far, just enough. The tall figure hesitated. Then, very gently, he leaned closer, and like before, like with the small creature, there was contact. Soft, warm, not solid, not cold, just, there. Courage's eyes softened. "You're not scary either," he whispered. The tall figure gave a faint, peaceful sigh. The small creature hummed softly beside him. And for the first time that night, all three of them sat together, not as strangers, not as fears, but as something else, something quieter, something kinder. And the night felt complete. The three of them remained together in the quiet field. Courage, small, gentle shadow, and the tall, drifting figure. No one spoke. No one needed to. The night itself seemed to breathe with them. Slow, steady, calm. The moon had moved higher in the sky now, its silver light softer than before, like a blanket laid gently over the world. Courage sat still, his paw resting lightly against the tall figure, a small creature close at his side. He didn't feel afraid anymore, not even a little. Instead, he felt something new, something warm. "You were never monsters," he whispered softly. The tall figure gave a long, peaceful sigh. The small creature hummed in agreement. Courage smiled, a quiet, sleepy smile. "You were just alone," he added. The wind drifted past them, soft and kind. For a while longer, they stayed like that. Time slowed, the world softened, and little by little, the night began to change. The darkness didn't disappear, but it grew lighter, gentler. Far off on the horizon, a faint hint of early dawn began to form. Not bright, not sudden, just a soft shift in the sky, from deep blue to a quieter shade. Courage noticed. "Morning is coming," he said gently. The small creature's hum grew softer. The tall figure shifted slightly, not in fear, not in sadness, just understanding. Courage looked between them. "Will you be okay?" he asked. The small creature gave one last steady hum. The tall figure responded with a slow, peaceful motion, its form no longer scattered, no longer fragile. They were calm now, not searching anymore, not lost. Courage nodded. "Okay," he whispered. He slowly pulled his paw back. The warmth lingered for just a moment, then faded gently into the air. The small creature drifted a little closer to the tall one. Their forms moved together softly, not merging, just staying near, no longer alone. Courage watched them quietly. He didn't feel like he was leaving something behind. He felt like he had helped something find its place. The wind brushed past once more. Soft. Light. Almost like a quiet thank you. Courage's ears lifted slightly. "You're welcome," he whispered. He turned slowly. The farmhouse was still there in the distance. A small, warm glow waiting for him. Home. Courage took a gentle breath. Then, step by step, he began to walk back. The grass whispered beneath his paws. Shh, shh. Behind him, the two figures remained, quiet, peaceful, together. Courage didn't look back right away. He didn't need to, because something inside him had changed. The dark didn't feel so big anymore. The unknown didn't feel so frightening. He walked steadily, calmly, all the way across the field. The farmhouse grew larger again. The warm light returned. The porch came into view. Courage climbed the steps slowly. 1, 2, 3. He paused at the door for just a moment. Then gently, he pushed it open. Crack! Inside, everything was just as he left it. Muriel still in her chair, rocking softly, her knitting resting in her lap. Eustace still asleep, muttering quietly. The house was warm, safe, still. Courage stepped inside. He closed the door gently behind him. The outside world softened into silence. He walked slowly back to Muriel's side. She stirred slightly, opening her eyes just a little. "Oh, Courage," she murmured sleepily. "There you are." "Huh?" Courage wagged his tail softly. "I knew you'd be all right," she said. Her voice was warm, certain. Courage curled up beside her once more. The floor felt familiar, comforting. He rested his head on his paws. Muriel's rocking chair began again. Back and forth, back and forth. The gentle rhythm filled the room. Courage let out a soft sigh. His eyes grew heavy. But this time, when he thought about the night outside, he didn't feel fear. He remembered the small, humming creature, the tall, drifting figure, the quiet connection they shared. And he smiled. "Not all monsters are scary," he whispered. The wind outside moved gently through the fields, soft, peaceful, as if the night itself agreed. Courage's breathing slowed. In and out, in and out. The farmhouse rested quietly in the middle of nowhere, no longer lonely, just peaceful. And under the fading night sky, everything felt exactly as it should be. Safe, calm, and gently, quietly. Courage drifted off to sleep. Come a little closer. Get comfortable. Let your body sink into your bed. Soft, warm, safe. Take a slow breath in and gently let it out. Tonight we return to a quiet place, a lonely farmhouse, standing still in the middle of endless fields, where the wind never truly stops. It only whispers. The sky above was deep and calm, painted in shades of dark blue and silver. The moon floated quietly, round and gentle, casting long, soft shadows across the land. Inside the farmhouse, everything was peaceful. Muriel sat in her rocking chair, moving slowly back and forth, her hands resting in her lap tonight. No knitting, just quiet. Eustace slept in his chair, a low rumbling snore filling the room, and Courage lay curled up on the floor. His small body rose and fell with each breath. In and out. In and out. The house felt safe. It always did. But outside, the wind was moving. Not fast. Not loud. Just steady. Shh. 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 It passed through the tall grass, brushing against each blade, like fingers gliding across soft strings. Courage's ears twitched. He didn't open his eyes yet, but something in the sound felt different tonight. The wind wasn't just moving, it was carrying something. A faint, distant sound. Not sharp, not sudden, just quiet, almost like a whisper. Courage's eyes slowly opened. He lifted his head slightly. Huh? He murmured sleepily. The room was still the same. Muriel rocking gently. Eustace snoring softly. Everything calm. But the wind outside called again. A little clearer this time. A whisper. Not words exactly, but something close. Courage sat up. His ears perked. Did you hear that? He whispered. No answer. Only the steady rhythm of the house. He looked toward the window. The curtain moved slightly, swaying with the breeze. Shh. The whisper came again. Longer this time. Softer. Lonelier. Courage's expression shifted. Not quite fear. Not yet. Just curiosity. He stood up slowly. Step. Step. The wooden floor creaked gently beneath him. He reached the window and carefully lifted the edge of the curtain. Outside, fields stretched endlessly. The moonlight made everything glow softly, silver and still. The grass swayed, moving like quiet waves. But there was something else, something moving with the wind, but not quite like the wind. Courage squinted. Far out in the field, something pale drifted between the grass. Not solid, not clear, just there. He blinked. Is that smoke? He whispered. The shape shifted. Slow, gentle, floating. Then it disappeared. Courage froze. Okay. Maybe not smoke, he said quietly. He kept watching. The wind passed again. Shh. Shh. And with it, the whisper returned. This time, it almost sounded like a sigh. Courage's ears lowered slightly. It sounds sad, he murmured. He leaned a little closer to the window, trying to see again. And then, there it was. The pale shape returned, closer this time. Still drifting, still soft, like a piece of fog that had lost its way. Courage's heart gave a small jump. Ghost, he whispered. He ducked down quickly. His mind raced. A ghost in the fields? At night? He peeked again. The shape hadn't moved closer to the house. It just wandered slowly, back and forth, like it didn't know where to go. The whisper came again. Long, quiet, and tired. Courage tilted his head. It's not a scary ghost, he said slowly. He watched carefully. The shape didn't rush, didn't chase, didn't change suddenly. It just drifted. Alone. Courage sat there for a moment, thinking. Usually, ghosts meant trouble. At least, that's what he always believed. But this one felt different. It didn't feel like danger. It felt like someone searching. Courage glanced back at Muriel. She was still rocking gently, eyes half closed, peaceful. Everything inside the house felt warm, safe. But outside, something was wandering alone. The whisper came again, softer now, almost like it was getting tired. Courage looked back out the window. The ghost drifted slowly across the field, its shape fading, then returning, like it couldn't quite stay together. "Are you lost?" Courage asked quietly. Of course. There was no answer, just the wind. But something inside Courage shifted. A small feeling, not fear, not this time. Something gentler. "Maybe you need help," he whispered. He hesitated. His eyes moved to the door, then back to the field, then back to Muriel. "I'll be careful," he said softly. He stepped away from the window. Step, step. The floor creaked quietly. He reached the door. His paw hovered near the handle. The wind outside whispered again, soft, calling. Courage took a slow breath. "Okay," he murmured. And gently, he opened the door. Crick. The night air slipped inside. Cool, quiet, filled with that same whispering wind. Courage stepped out onto the porch. The field stretched before him, silver under the moon. And somewhere out there, the lonely ghost drifted, still searching, still whispering. Courage stood still for a moment. Half in the light, half in the night. Then slowly, he took his first step forward. The porch creaked softly beneath Courage's paws. Creak, as he stepped down into the cool night grass. The air outside felt different from inside the farmhouse. Not unsafe, just wide, endless. Like the world had suddenly grown bigger the moment he stepped into it. Behind him, the warm yellow glow of the farmhouse stayed steady. Muriel's gentle rocking, Eustace's quiet snoring. All of it still there, still safe, still waiting. Courage hesitated for just a moment. "Okay," he whispered to himself. "I'm just looking." Then he stepped forward. Step, step. The grass brushed against his leg softly. Shh, shh. Like the field was speaking in hushed tones only he could hear. The wind moved through everything, not rushing, not pushing, just passing through the tall grass like a slow breath. And with it, that whisper came again, longer now, clearer, still not words, but almost shaped like them. Courage stopped walking. His ears lifted. "I hear you," he said softly. The wind responded by moving through the field in a slow wave, as if acknowledging him. The pale shape he had seen from the window drifted again in the distance. Not far, but not close either. Just waiting in between. Courage narrowed his eyes slightly. "You're still there," he murmured. He took another step, then another, each step slower than the last, as if the ground itself was asking him to be gentle. The ghost-like shape shifted again. It didn't run. It didn't hide. It simply turned, slightly, as if it knew it was being followed. Courage froze. "Okay," he whispered. "I won't come too fast." He sat down in the grass, right there, midway between the house and the shape. The wind passed over him, soft, cool, calming. "Shh, shh." The whisper came again, this time, closer. And for a moment, Courage thought he could almost understand it. Not clearly, not in words, but in feeling. Lonely, searching, tired. "You're not scary," Courage said gently. The pale shape flickered, just slightly, like it had hurt him. The grass around Courage moved softly. Not from wind alone, but something else. Something subtle, something present. Courage tilted his head. "Are you trying to talk to me?" he asked. The wind answered instead. A long, slow exhale across the field. Shh. The shape drifted a little closer. Still not solid. Still not fully formed. But closer. Courage didn't move. He just watched. His fear, surprisingly, wasn't growing. It was fading. Because it didn't feel like danger. It felt like sadness. "You're looking for something," he whispered. The shape paused again. And then the whisper came stronger than before. Still not loud, but clearer. Almost like a voice trapped inside the wind. Courage's ears perked. He couldn't understand the words, but he could feel the meaning. Lost. Home. Lost. Courage blinked slowly. "You're lost," he said softly. The shape shimmered faintly, as if agreeing. The wind slowed. The field grew quieter. Even the grass seemed to pause. Courage looked down for a moment, thinking. He had been scared of this thing only minutes ago. A ghost in the field. A whisper in the dark. But now, sitting here, he didn't feel afraid anymore. He just felt calm. "I get lost too sometimes," he admitted quietly. The wind responded with a soft, lingering hush, almost like listening. Courage looked back up. The shape was closer now. Not looming. Not threatening. Just drifting nearby. Its edges softened in the moonlight. Like fog learning how to stay still. "Do you remember where you came from?" Courage asked gently. The wind moved again. Slow. Uncertain. Then still again. No answer. Courage nodded slightly. "That's okay," he said. "You don't have to remember right away." He shifted in the grass, making himself more comfortable. The field around them stayed quiet, almost like it was waiting too. The farmhouse light behind him flickered gently in the distance. Warm, steady. But Courage didn't turn back. Not yet. The ghost shape drifted again. A little closer. A little lower. Now it was almost level with him. Courage could feel it more clearly now. Not physically, but emotionally. A kind of heaviness. Not scary. Just tired. "You've been wandering a long time," he said softly. The wind answered with a slow, fading sigh. Courage exhaled slowly. Then something unexpected happened. The shape stopped moving entirely. Not frozen in fear. Not disappearing. Just resting. As if it had finally found a place where it could pause. Courage blinked. "Oh," he whispered. The wind around them softened even more. Like the world itself was settling down. The grass stopped swaying so much. The air grew still, and in that stillness, something changed. The ghost didn't feel like a ghost anymore. Not fully. It felt more like a memory. Waiting to be understood. Courage slowly leaned back on his paws. "You're not here to scare anyone," he said gently. The shape flickered faintly. A soft, almost grateful movement. The wind responded with a long, peaceful whisper. Courage smiled a little. "You just didn't know where to go," he said. The field remained quiet, but it didn't feel empty anymore. It felt shared, and somewhere far behind them. The farmhouse lights stayed warm, watching, waiting. Courage looked up at the night sky. Stars scattered softly above him, calm and endless. "Not so scary out here," he admitted quietly. The wind drifted past once more, not whispering now, just flowing. And for the first time that night, Courage didn't feel like he was stepping into something unknown. He felt like he was sitting beside it. understanding it. The night had grown quieter now. Not empty, just still. Courage remained sitting in the grass. The tall farmhouse light behind him felt distant now, like a memory of safety rather than a need for it. In front of him, the pale, drifting shape hovered gently, no longer rushing, no longer searching in panic, just present. The wind moved around them in slow circles, soft, careful, almost as if it didn't want to disturb anything. Courage tilted his head slightly. "You're staying," he whispered. The shape flickered once, slowly, like a nod. Courage exhaled gently. "Gay," he said. "That's good." He didn't move closer, and neither did the ghost. Instead, something quieter began to happen. The air changed, not colder, not warmer, just heavier with feeling, like the night itself was remembering something. Courage blinked. "Do you remember something?" he asked softly. The wind paused, and then, very faintly, the whisper returned. But this time, it wasn't just sound. It carried images. Not clear ones, but feelings woven into the air. Courage closed his eyes slightly, and he saw it. A field. Not this one, but similar. Older. Different. A place filled with light, once, and something standing in it. The ghost. But not as it was now. It had been fuller, stronger, more complete. Courage opened his eyes again. "You were here before," he murmured. The shape drifted slowly. The wind responded with a long, trembling hush. "Shh." Courage stayed very still. Not afraid, just listening. The feeling continued. A moment of change. A moment of loss. Something fading. Courage lowered his ears slightly. "You got separated," he whispered. The ghost flickered again. Not violently, just softly, like a candle remembering how to burn. The wind moved low across the grass. Slow, sad. Courage's voice softened. "That's why you keep wandering," he said. The shape responded with a faint, broken movement. Almost like agreement. Almost like relief that someone understood. Courage felt something in his chest loosen. Not fear, not tension, just empathy. "You're not trying to scare anyone," he said gently. "You're just trying to find your way back." The wind softened again, and for the first time, the whisper felt less like searching and more like remembering. Courage shifted slightly in the grass. "I know that feeling," he admitted quietly. The ghost drifted closer again. Not much, just enough to feel less distant. Courage didn't flinch. He only watched. The night around them grew even calmer, as if it understood something important was happening. "When I get lost," Courage continued softly, "I usually want someone to help me." He looked at the shape. "So, maybe, I can help you too." The wind paused. Completely. Even the grass stopped moving for a moment. Then, a slow, gentle shift. The ghost moved slightly closer. And this time, it didn't feel uncertain. It felt like trust. Courage blinked slowly. "You're listening," he whispered. The shape responded with a faint glow-like ripple. Not bright, just warm in feeling. The wind followed it with a soft sigh, like the night itself relaxing. Courage looked down at the grass again, thinking. "Maybe you're not supposed to stay here forever," he said gently. The shape flickered. This time, not confused, just attentive. Courage continued softly. Maybe you're just stuck between where you were and where you're supposed to be. The wind moved again, a little stronger this time, but not chaotic. Guiding, Courage slowly raised his head. "What if we try to find where you belong?" he asked. The ghost didn't answer with words, but something changed. The air around it shifted, lighter, less heavy, like a small piece of sadness had loosened. Courage smiled faintly. "Okay," he whispered. "Then we try together." The wind responded immediately. Soft, long, like a promise carried across fields. Shh. The ghost drifted slightly upward. Not a leaving, not disappearing, just following the wind's direction. Courage stood slowly. "I think it knows where to go now," he said quietly. He turned his head toward the horizon, where the wind seemed to flow more steadily, like it had a destination. The farmhouse was still behind him, warm, waiting. But something new was ahead. Not fear, not danger, just journey. Courage took a slow breath. And out. "Let's go," he whispered. And together, Courage and the wandering ghost began to move through the field, following the whispering wind, towards something neither of them fully understood yet, but both were ready to find. The wind had changed direction now. Not suddenly, not sharply, just gently, like a hand turning a page in a slow story. Courage walked through the field at an easy pace, not rushing anymore, not hesitating either. Step, step. The grass brushed softly against his legs, and beside him, the ghost drifted quietly, no longer chaotic, no longer uncertain. It moved like it was learning how to follow again. The wind carried them both forward. Shh, shh. Courage looked ahead. "It feels like it knows where it's going now," he murmured. The ghost flickered faintly. A soft response. Not words, just recognition. The night around them grew slightly brighter. Not from light, but from calmness, as if something heavy had begun to lift. Courage noticed it too. The air felt different, lighter, less sad. "We're getting closer," he said softly. The wind responded with a long, steady hush. Ahead, the field began to shift. The grass grew thinner, the ground more open, and the wind stronger, but still gentle, not pushing, just guiding. Courage slowed. "This feels like a place you remember," he whispered. The ghost drifted slightly ahead of him now. For the first time, it wasn't just following, it was leading. Courage watched quietly. The shape moved through the grass, toward a small clearing, and as they reached it, something changed. The wind stopped whispering. Not completely, but enough to notice. The silence here felt different, not empty. Waiting, Courage stepped into the clearing. The grass here was shorter, smoother, like it had been touched by time itself. The ghost hovered in the center. Still, quiet. Courage tilted his head. "Is this it?" he asked softly. The wind didn't answer right away. Then, very slowly, it returned. But now it felt familiar, like a memory waking up. Courage blinked. The air shimmered faintly, not visually strong, but emotionally clear. And suddenly, he saw it. Not fully, not sharply, but enough. A reflection of the past. This place was once filled with others like the ghost. Not scary, not dangerous, just present. together. Courage's eyes softened. You were part of something, he whispered. The ghost flickered, slowly, like it remembered too. The wind moved gently through the clearing, not whispering now, just breathing. Courage stepped a little closer. You got separated here, he said gently. The ghost responded with a faint, trembling motion. Not fear. Recognition. Courage looked around. The clearing felt old, not abandoned, just quiet for a long time, like something had once been whole here, and slowly drifted apart. That's why you keep coming back, Courage said softly. The ghost drifted lower, closer to the ground, almost resting. The wind softened around it, as if comforting it. Courage sat down again in the grass. Careful. Gentle. You don't have to stay lost, he said. The ghost flickered faintly. Not uncertain now. Just listening deeply. Courage continued softly. Maybe you just need to settle. The wind responded immediately. A long, peaceful exhale. Shh. And then, something changed. The ghost began to shift. Not breaking, not fading, just reorganizing. Like scattered mists, slowly finding shape again. Courage watched quietly. It's remembering, he whispered. The wind grew warmer in feeling. Not temperature, but emotion. The clearing felt less empty, less broken. Courage's ears relaxed. You weren't meant to be alone, he said softly. The ghost flickered one last time, and then it steadied. Not fully solid, not gone, just calmer, more complete than before. The wind circled gently around it, like a quiet celebration. Courage smiled faintly. There you go, he whispered. The ghost didn't respond with sound, but it moved closer, not drifting away anymore, staying. Courage exhaled slowly, in and out. The field around them felt peaceful now, not mysterious, not frightening, just resolved in a soft way. The wind returned to its normal whisper, but it no longer felt lonely. Courage looked toward the horizon. I think you've found part of yourself, he said gently. The ghost hovered calmly beside him, no longer searching outward, just existing peacefully. Courage stood slowly. You'll be okay here for a while, he said. The wind answered with a soft, steady breeze, and for the first time, it felt like agreement. Courage turned slightly toward home. The farmhouse light still glowed in the distance. Warm, familiar. I should go back, he murmured. The ghost did not follow immediately, but it didn't drift away either. It stayed in the clearing, calm, resting. Courage gave a small nod. Good night, he whispered. Then slowly, he began to walk back through the field, following the softened wind home. The walk back felt different. The field was the same. The grass still swayed. The wind still moved through it. But everything felt quieter now, and not empty, not heavy, just peaceful. Courage walked slowly. Step, step. The farmhouse light grew closer with each movement. Warm, steady, familiar. Behind him, the clearing was fading into distance, and with it, the ghost. But something felt changed. Courage paused once, just once, and looked back, far away. The clearing shimmered faintly, not with fear, not with loneliness, but with calm. You're okay there, he whispered softly. The wind answered gently. Shh. Courage turned forward again, and kept walking. The night no longer felt uncertain. It felt settled, like something had finally been understood. The farmhouse porch came into view, its soft yellow light spilling into the grass like a blanket. Courage climbed the steps slowly. Creak, creak. The door was still slightly open. Waiting, he stepped inside. Kirk. Warm air greeted him immediately. Muriel still rocked gently in her chair. Eustace still snored softly. Everything was exactly as it had been. But Courage wasn't the same. He walked to his spot on the floor and sat down carefully, curling up, slow, gentle. Muriel opened her eyes slightly. "Oh, Courage," she whispered sleepily. "You're back." Courage gave a small nod. "Yeah," he whispered. Muriel smiled faintly. "Good boy," she murmured, and drifted back into her gentle rocking. Courage laid his head down, but he didn't sleep yet. His eyes stayed open just a little, thinking. The wind outside continued to move through the fields, but now it didn't whisper the same way. It felt lighter, like it had finished saying something important. Courage exhaled softly. "You found your way," he whispered. His eyes slowly grew heavier, and in his mind, he saw the clearing again. Not as something lost, but as something calm, resting, whole in its own way. The wind passed gently outside the window. Shh, shh. Courage's breathing slowed. In and out. In and out. He felt warm, safe. Not because the world had changed, but because he understood it a little more now. The unknown wasn't always dangerous. Sometimes it was just something waiting to be understood. His eyes closed halfway. "Good night," he whispered softly. And this time, he wasn't speaking to fear, just to the night itself. Outside, the wind moved across the fields one last time. Soft, peaceful, and far away. The clearing stayed still, no longer lonely, just quiet, resting, and the night finally felt complete. The farmhouse was quiet, not the kind of quiet that feels empty, but the kind that feels full of peace. Courage lay curled on the floor, warm, still, breathing slowly. In and out. In and out. Muriel rocked gently in her chair nearby, back and forth, back and forth. A steady rhythm, like a lullaby made of wood and time. Eustace snored softly in the background, unbothered by the night, unbothered by anything at all. Outside the window, the fields stretched endlessly under the moonlight. But something was different now. The wind still moved through the grass, still brushed against the farmhouse walls, still passed over the land like a quiet traveler. But it no longer felt lonely. It felt like complete. Courage stirred slightly in his sleep. His ears twitched. And in his dream, he saw the clearing again. But this time, it was not empty. It was calm, very calm. The ghosts were still there, but no longer drifting in confusion. It stood, or rather rested, in the center of the clearing. Not lost, not searching, just present. The wind moved around it softly, not pulling, not pushing, just holding, like a memory finally finding its place. Courage in the dream watched from a distance, and for the first time, he didn't feel like he had to fix anything, only understand. The ghost shimmered faintly in the dreamlight, and slowly, very slowly, it began to fade into the wind. Not disappearing, becoming part of it. Courage whispered softly in his sleep. Oh. And in the dream, the wind answered, not with words, but with feeling. Warm, calm, safe, as if saying, "Thank you for not being afraid." Back in the farmhouse, Courage's breathing deepened. The rocking chair creaked gently. Muriel hummed a soft tune under her breath, barely audible, like a memory of a song. And outside, the wind passed over the fields again, but now it was different. Where there had once been wandering, there was now direction. Where there had once been confusion, there was now peace. The clearing in the distance no longer shimmered with searching energy. It simply existed. Quiet, balanced, still. As if something once broken had finally settled into place. The wind moved through it gently, no longer calling out, but simply flowing. Courage's dream shifted one last time. He saw himself in the field again. But he was not afraid, not running, not hiding, just standing, watching, breathing. And beside him, nothing threatening, nothing unknown, just the wind, soft, familiar now. "It's okay," he whispered in the dream. And somehow, it truly was. The wind answered one final time, a long, slow breath across the fields. Shh, not lonely anymore, not searching, just living. Back inside the farmhouse, Courage's eyes slowly closed fully. His body relaxed deeper into sleep. Muriel's rocking slowed slightly, becoming quieter, softer, like the house itself was settling for the night. And outside, the wind continued its journey across the land. But now it didn't feel like a voice calling out into emptiness. It felt like a story that had finally been heard and understood and allowed to rest. The fields beneath the moon remained still, not silent, just peaceful. And somewhere in that peace, there was no longer a lonely ghost. Only wind, only memory, only calm. Courage slept deeply now, his breathing slow, steady, safe, in and out, in and out. And the night, the wind, the fields, and everything between them finally felt at rest. Shh, get comfortable now. Let your body sink down, like you're resting into soft, warm clouds. Breathe in slowly and out gently. Tonight, we return to a quiet place again. But this time, it is not a field, not a farmhouse. It is something deeper, older, and a little more forgotten. A forest, but not a frightening one. A sleepy forest. Tall trees standing like calm giants, their branches swaying slowly in the night wind. Shh, shh, like they are whispering to each other in dreams. The moonlight barely reaches the ground here. Instead, it drips between leaves, soft and silver, like melted starlight. And somewhere inside this forest, something is waiting. Not hunting, not hiding, just waiting. Courage stood at the edge of the trees, his tiny paws pressed against the soft dirt path. Behind him, far away, the world felt normal, but ahead, the forest felt like a different kind of silence. "I don't know about this," Courage whispered. A gentle breeze moved through the trees. Shh. Didn't answer him, but it didn't feel threatening either. Just patient, Courage swallowed. Okay, he said quietly. I'll just take a look. Step. Careful step. He entered the forest. The moment he did, the world changed slightly. The air felt cooler, softer, like the trees were breathing around him. Leaves rustled above, slow and steady, like sleepy whispers. Shh, shh. Courage looked up. The branches moved gently, not shaking, not trembling, just swaying, as if the forest itself was dreaming. It's kind of pretty, Courage murmured. He walked slowly forward. The path beneath him was soft with moss. Every step made almost no sound, like the forest wanted him to be quiet. Or maybe wanted to listen. Courage tilted his head. Hello, he called softly. No answer. Only the wind. But this wind was different. It didn't just pass through. It stayed. Between the trees, it gathered and moved and circled like it had nowhere else to go. Courage slowed. Okay, he whispered. That's a little weird. A branch above him creaked softly. Creak. Courage looked up quickly, but there was nothing there. Just leaves. Just shadows. Just moonlight. He exhaled slowly. I'm fine, he told himself. I'm just looking. He kept walking, deeper into the forest now, where the trees stood closer together, and the light grew softer. The wind moved more slowly here, almost like it was tired. Shh, shh. Courage stopped again. Do you hear that? He whispered. At first, nothing. Then, very faintly, a sound. Not a voice. Not a growl. Just a broken whisper in the wind. Courage's ears lifted. Hello, he called again. The whisper answered, but not clearly. It felt like fragments. Lost. Home. Lost. Quiet. Courage blinked. Someone's here, he said softly. He stepped forward again. Slower now. More careful. The forest seemed to react. The wind shifted between trees, moving in small circles, like it was confused or searching. Courage walked until the path opened into a small clearing, and there he stopped. Something was there, not fully formed, not fully still, just present in pieces. A shape made of drifting leaves and soft shadow, held together by the wind itself. Courage stared. Oh, he whispered. The shape flickered, like it noticed him. The wind around it trembled slightly. Shh, shh. Courage didn't run. He didn't step back. He just stood there. Are you the forest? He asked gently. No answer. But the wind moved closer to him, slowly, carefully, like it was trying to understand him too. Courage softened his voice. You feel lonely, he said. The shape flickered again. A soft, trembling motion. Courage sat down slowly in the moss. Right there, in the clearing. Not too close, not too far, just present. I think you need a friend, he whispered. The wind paused, and the forest. Listen. The forest stayed still after Courage spoke. Not frozen, not tense, just listening. The wind no longer rushed through the trees like before. It moved slowly now, as if it was thinking. Shh, shh. Courage remained seated in the mossy clearing. His small body relaxed slightly as the ground beneath him felt soft and cool. The drifting shape in front of him, made of leaves, shadow, and wind, shifted again. Not fully forming, not fully disappearing, just uncertain. Courage tilted his head gently. "You're not okay," he said softly. The wind responded with a faint, broken whisper. "Lost. Quiet. Home." Courage nodded slowly. "You're trying to say something," he murmured. "But it's, mixed up." The forest creaked softly above them. Creak. But it wasn't threatening. It sounded more like a tired sigh from something very old. Courage looked up at the trees. "Is something wrong with you?" he asked the forest gently. The wind moved through the branches in uneven waves. Some trees swayed, others didn't. It felt disconnected, like parts of the forest were no longer speaking the same language. Courage frowned slightly. "You feel scattered," he said quietly. The drifting shape flickered again. This time it moved closer. Not quickly, not suddenly, just drawn toward him. Courage didn't move away. He watched carefully. As it approached, the shape became slightly clearer. It wasn't a monster. Not even close. It was more like a memory of the forest itself, held together by wind that didn't know where to go. Leaves circled slowly round it, then fell away, then returned again. Like something repeating without understanding why. Courage's ears lowered slightly. "You're stuck," he whispered. The wind responded with a soft tremor. "Shh, shh." The sound wasn't strong. It was weak, tired. Courage shifted a little closer on the moss. Carefully. "Okay," he said gently. "Let's figure it out." The forest did not respond with the words, but the clearing felt different now, less confused, more focused, as if Courage's presence had given it something it had lost: attention. The wind slowed again, and this time, Courage noticed something new. The broken whispers weren't random. They were repeating, like the same feeling kept trying to be said, over and over, but never fully forming. Lost, home, lost, quiet. Courage repeated it softly. "You're lost," he said. The wind stirred. "And you want home." The forest responded with a deeper hush. Shh. Courage looked around the clearing. The trees here were older, thicker. Their roots tangled deeply into the ground like sleeping veins. But something felt off, not broken, not dying, just disconnected. Like something had interrupted its balance. Courage stood slowly. Step, careful step. He walked toward the edge of the clearing. The wind followed him. Not behind, not ahead. Around him, like it didn't want to leave him alone anymore. He placed a paw on a tree trunk. The bark was warm, strangely warm. "You remember things?" he whispered. The tree didn't respond, but the wind shifted in agreement. Courage closed his eyes for a moment and listened, not with fear, not with expectation, just listening. And in the silence, he felt it. A deeper pattern beneath the wind. Something like direction, not physical direction, but emotional. A pull. Courage opened his eyes. Something changed here, he said softly. The wind trembled slightly. Not denial, not agreement, just memory. Courage stepped back into the center of the clearing. The drifting shape waited there, still unstable, still incomplete. But closer now, Courage sat down again. "Tell me," he said gently, "if I help you, will you try to calm down?" The wind paused. For a long moment, there was nothing. Then, very faintly, the whisper changed. Still broken, but less confused. "Home. Help. Home." Courage nodded slowly. "Okay," he said softly. "That's a start. He looked up at the trees again. "The forest isn't gone," he murmured. "It's just out of balance." The wind circled around him in slow motion, like it was waiting for what he would say next. Courage took a slow breath. "Then we find what it lost." The forest responded with a deeper, steadier hush. Not loud, not sudden, but grounding, like something inside it had just begun to settle. The drifting shape flickered more steadily now, less chaotic, more aware. Courage smiled faintly. "Okay," he whispered. "We'll do it together." And for the first time, the wind did not feel scattered. The forest did not move much now. It felt like it was holding its breath, not in fear, but in attention. Courage stood slowly from the mossy ground. His eyes moved carefully between the trees. "Okay," he whispered. "Let's find what's wrong." The wind answered softly. "Shh, shh," not guiding him forward directly, but agreeing to follow. The drifting shape, made of leaves, shadow, and broken wind, hovered beside him now. Not fully stable, but no longer scattered. It stayed close. Like it had chosen him, Courage began to walk. Step, soft step, through the clearing and into the deeper forest. The trees grew taller here, older, their branches twisting gently overhead like slow-moving thoughts. Moonlight barely touched the ground. Instead, it slipped between leaves in thin silver lines. The forest felt layered, like it had many memories stacked inside it. Courage slowed. "It feels like something is missing," he said quietly. The wind shifted slightly. Not stronger, not weaker, just present. The broken whispers came again, but softer now, more focused. "Home. Lost. Far." Courage listened carefully. "You keep saying home," he murmured. He looked at the drifting shape beside him. "But what is home for a forest?" The wind didn't answer right away. Instead, it moved through the trees in a wide circle, as if remembering something far away. Courage followed the movement and noticed something strange. The deeper he went into the forest, the quieter the wind became. Not peaceful quiet, but empty quiet, like parts of it were missing entirely. Courage stopped walking. "That's not normal," he whispered. The drifting shape flickered. Its leaves spun slowly, then settled again. Courage stepped forward again, carefully. The forest began to open slightly ahead, not into a clearing, but into something older. A wide space surrounded by massive trees, their trunks thicker than anything Courage had seen so far. And in the center, something was different. The wind did not move here the same way. It didn't flow. It stuttered. "Shh, shh, shh." Courage tilted his head. "This is where it started," he whispered. The drifting shape beside him trembled, not in fear, but recognition. Courage stepped into the space. Immediately, the air felt heavier. Not bad, just dense, like something important had once been here and was no longer. Courage looked around slowly. The trees here were silent, not swaying, not whispering, just still. "Why are you so quiet?" he asked gently. The wind tried to respond, but only fragments came through. Lost, broken, gone. Courage frowned slightly. "Something was taken," he said softly. The forest responded with a long, low hush. Shh. The drifting shape moved into the center of the space, and suddenly, Courage saw something clearer. The wind here wasn't just scattered. It was missing a center. Like everything had been moving around something that was no longer there. Courage stepped closer. "There was something important here," he said. The wind trembled. The leaves above shifted without direction. Courage placed a paw gently on the ground and closed his eyes. He listened, not to sound, but to feeling, and slowly, something formed in his mind. A presence. Not alive, not gone, just displaced. A heart. Not a literal heart, but the emotional center of the forest itself. Courage opened his eyes. "The forest lost its heart," he whispered. The wind reacted immediately. A soft, aching rush through the trees. Shh. The drifting shape flickered more strongly now, as if the truth had given it strength. Courage nodded slowly. "That's why everything feels broken," he said. The forest did not disagree. It only listened. Courage looked around the wide space again. "Where did it go?" he asked softly. The wind tried to answer, but only fragments came through again. Far, hidden, quiet, deep. Courage narrowed his eyes slightly. "Deep in the forest," he murmured. He looked toward the darker side of the trees, where the moonlight barely reached. "Okay," he said quietly. "We'll go find it." The wind shifted immediately. Not loudly, not urgently, but like something inside the forest had just remembered hope. Shh. The drifting shape moved closer to Courage, and for the first time, it felt steady, not fully healed. Not complete, but no longer lost in pieces. Courage gave a small nod. "We'll bring it back," he said gently. The forest responded with a soft, unified hush, as if it had been waiting a long time to hear that. And together, they stepped deeper into the forest, following the faint pull of what had been lost, towards something waiting in the dark. Felt like it was listening properly. The forest grew darker as Courage moved forward. Not frighteningly dark, just deeper, like the world was folding inward, one layer at a time. The wind no longer flowed freely here. It moved in uneven currents, as if searching for something it had forgotten how to name. Shh, shh, shh. Courage walked carefully. Step, soft step, each one sinking slightly into moss and old leaves. The drifting shape stayed close beside him, no longer scattered, no longer uncertain. It moved like it was remembering how to exist properly again. "We're getting closer," Courage whispered. The forest did not respond with words, but everything around him felt like agreement. The trees here were different, older, heavier. Their trunks twisted slightly inward, as if leaning toward something hidden deep within the forest. Courage slowed. "It feels like something is calling us," he said softly. The wind trembled. Not loudly, just enough to be felt. Ahead, trees began to part. Not into a clearing like before, but into something narrower. A path that didn't look made by paws or footsteps, but by time itself. Courage stopped at its edge. "Okay," he whispered. "This is it." The drifting shape moved slightly forward, as if recognizing the path. The wind here felt different, not broken, not missing, but pulled, like something invisible was drawing it inward. Courage stepped onto the path. Immediately, the air changed. It felt denser, heavier, but not dangerous. More like important. "Ash," the wind whispered in uneven layers around him. Courage narrowed his eyes slightly. "He's trying to reach something," he said. The forest did not disagree. Instead, the wind shifted forward, guiding, not pushing, just leading. The path twisted gently between trees, and with each step, the darkness deepened. Not in fear, but in focus. Courage looked around carefully. "The heart must be close," he murmured. The drifting shape beside him flickered slightly. More stable now, more aware, as if the closer they got and the more it remembered what it once was. The wind suddenly slowed, almost stopping. Courage stopped too. "We're here," he whispered. In front of them, the path opened into a space unlike the others. Not a clearing, not a gap, but something like a still center. The air here was completely motionless. No wind, no rustle, no whisper, just silence. Courage frowned slightly. "That's not right," he said quietly. The drifting shape moved ahead, slowly, carefully, and as it entered the space, something changed. Very faintly at first. A pulse. Not sound, not light, but feeling. A soft, distant heartbeat. Courage's ears lifted. "There it is," he whispered. The forest's heart. Hidden in the silence. The wind did not move yet, but it was waiting. Courage stepped closer. The space in the center shimmered faintly. Not visible clearly, but felt deeply, like something buried under layers of quiet. "It's still here," he said softly. The drifting shape trembled, but not in fear, in recognition. The heartbeat pulsed again. Slow, gentle, weak. Courage lowered himself slightly. "You've been protecting it," he whispered. The forest answered in z's, but the silence itself felt like agreement. Courage stepped into the center. The air around him reacted immediately, very softly. The wind stirred for the first time in this place. Not chaotic, not strong, just awake. "Shh." Courage closed his eyes and listened, not for sound, but for direction, and he felt it. The heart wasn't gone. It was just buried in stillness, held too tightly by silence. "You didn't lose it," he whispered. "You just stopped letting it move." The wind responded. A soft, trembling release. "Shh." The drifting shape moved into place above the center, and slowly, it began to change. Not breaking, not fading, but aligning, as if it was remembering how to connect again. Courage stepped back slightly. "It needs you," he said gently. The forest responded with a slow, deep breath. And then, the wind returned. Not in force, not in chaos, but in flow, gentle, even, alive. The heartbeat grew slightly stronger. Thump, thump, thump. Courage smiled faintly. "There you are," he whispered. The forest was waking up. Not loudly, not suddenly, but softly. Like something long asleep, finally remembering how to dream again. And in the center of it all, the drifting shape settled fully for the first time. No longer broken, no longer scattered. Just part of the whole again. Courage stepped back into the trees, watching. The wind moved freely now. Through branches, across roots, between leaves. Alive again. "You're okay now," he said softly. The forest answered with a calm, steady hush. Shh. And it sounded like gratitude. The forest no longer felt silent, but it wasn't loud either. It was balanced, like a long-held breath had finally been released. Courage stood still for a moment in the center of the trees, watching the change ripple outward. Shh, shh. The wind moved again, but this time it didn't feel lost. It felt guided. Branches that had been still began to sway gently once more, not in confusion, but in rhythm. Leaves that had hung motionless now rustled softly, like they were remembering how to dance. Courage blinked slowly. "It's coming back," he whispered. The forest responded with a calm, unified hush, not broken anymore, not scattered. Whole. The heartbeat in the center grew steadier. Thump, thump, thump. Soft, consistent, alive. The drifting shape that had once been unstable now hovered calmly above it, no longer flickering, no longer uncertain, just part of the forest again. Courage smiled faintly. "You did it," he said softly. The wind moved gently around him, almost like a quiet thank you. Shh. Courage turned slowly toward the path he came from. The darkness of the deeper forest was still there, but it no longer felt heavy. It felt open, like it had finally stopped holding its breath. Step back, gaze, soft step. He began walking back. But something was different now. The forest did not feel like it was behind him. It felt like it was with him. The wind followed him gently between the trees, not pushing him forward, not rushing him out, just accompanying him. Branches swayed softly above. Leaves rustled in calm patterns. The broken whispers were gone now, replaced by something steady, something whole. Courage looked around as he walked. "It's beautiful again," he murmured. The forest answered with a soft, peaceful breath. Shh. The path he had followed earlier now felt different. Not darker, not uncertain, just familiar. As if the forest was guiding him home now instead of asking him to find it. Courage slowed slightly. "Are you coming with me?" he asked gently. The wind responded by brushing softly past him. Warm, comforting. Not an answer in words, but in feeling. Yes. Courage nodded. "Okay," he whispered. He continued walking. The trees began to thin slightly ahead. Moonlight returned in soft silver beams. The deeper forest was behind him now, and the edge was near. But something strange happened as he approached it. The wind did not stop. It followed him right to the boundary. Shh. Courage paused at the edge of the forest. He looked back. The trees stood tall and calm now, no longer heavy, no longer quiet in sadness, just not alive. "You're okay now," he said softly. The forest responded with a gentle sway, like a bow. Courage smiled faintly. "Good." he whispered. He stepped out of the trees, back into the open night. The world beyond felt different, too. Not because it had changed, but because he had. The wind still moved across the fields outside. But now it carried something new. Not loneliness, not searching, but memory. Behind him, the forest remained calm, whole, resting in its restored rhythm. And for a moment, Courage just stood there, listening. Not to fear, not to silence, but to balance. I think you're going to be okay, he said softly. The wind answered one last time from the forest. Shh. Gentle. Steady. Grateful. Courage turned away and began walking home. Step, step. The night felt softer now, like it understood him better, like it trusted him more. And somewhere behind him, the forest continued to breathe calmly, no longer needing a friend, because it had remembered how to be one with itself. Courage walked slowly through the open night. The forest was behind him now, tall, quiet, and whole again. The wind that followed him no longer felt strange. It felt familiar, like an old friend walking a little too far behind, just to make sure he got home safely. Shh, shh. The grass in the field swayed gently as he passed, not restless anymore, just calm. Courage looked up at the sky. The stars seemed brighter now, not because they had changed, but because everything beneath them felt lighter. He exhaled softly. It worked, he whispered to himself. Not proudly, not loudly, just peacefully. Step, step. The farmhouse came into view, warm light spilling from the windows, a small, steady glow in the distance. Home. Courage slowed as he approached. The wind around him softened further, almost like it didn't want to interrupt the moment. Shh. He stepped onto the porch. Cree. The sound felt gentle now, not eerie, not heavy, just familiar. He paused at the door. For a moment, he looked back. The fields stretched wide behind him. And far beyond them, the forest stood quietly. Not dark, not heavy, just alive, balanced. Courage smiled faintly. Good night, he whispered toward it. The wind answered. Soft, long, warm. Shh. Like a quiet thank you carried across distance. Courage turned back and stepped inside. Crook. The warmth of the farmhouse wrapped around him immediately. Muriel was still in her chair, rocking gently. Eustace still snored softly. Everything was just as it had been. But Courage wasn't the same. He walked to his spot and curled up slowly. Careful, calm. Muriel opened her eyes slightly. Oh, Courage, she whispered softly. You're back. Courage nodded faintly. Yeah, he said quietly. Muriel smiled and returned to her gentle rocking. Back and forth, back and forth. The rhythm filled the room like a lullaby. Courage closed his eyes halfway, but didn't fall asleep yet. Outside the window, the wind moved across the fields once more, but it no longer whispered in fragments. It flowed. Smooth, steady, complete. And somewhere far away, the forest continued to breathe in quiet harmony, not calling out anymore, just existing. Courage's breathing slowed, in and out, in and out. His thoughts drifted gently, to trees that learned how to sway again, to wind that remembered its way, to something broken that became whole, not by force, but by understanding. It was just lonely, he murmured sleepily. Muriel's rocking chair creaked softly. The house was warm, safe. Still, the wind outside passed one final time. Soft, gentle, not a whisper anymore, just peace. And as Courage finally drifted into sleep, he didn't think of monsters. He didn't think of fear. He thought of something much quieter, something much kinder, a forest that needed a friend and found one. And in return, remembered how to be whole again.